We should be live. Let me make sure we are good to go. Hang tight, our live audience, as I make sure this is good. Yes, we are live. Welcome to episode 347 of the Disc Golf Answer Man. We have two special guests on with us. We have AJ Risley and Chris Clemons. They made the trek out here to Emporia, Kansas, so we can get some content produced for you guys. So hopefully you guys are excited about it, because we are very excited about it. And they're also going to be here to help answer some disc golf questions. And then, of course, we have our very own Eric McCabe,
The disc golf answer man.
the disc golf, one of the OG disc golf answer men.
300 and how many episodes deep?
347 plus, because some of the ones we didn't number. So,
yeah. Dang, so you guys are
a full year's worth.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Y'all are closing in on that 1 year anniversary. Congrats.
Well, we
Yeah.
started this before numbers were invented, so we didn't have numbers in the beginning to add.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's right. You guys did start at negative 250. I forgot
Right.
about that.
yeah,
that's how we roll.
you'll have to check the etchings on the caves to see where you can.
Yeah,
download.
back in my day, this podcast was on a cup and a string. Anyways, Bobby, do we have like actual discussion time?
We had 2 cups and 53 strings just going out. Anyway, yes, we actually have content to talk about, stuff to talk about. So before we start talking, though, I want to remind everybody that the Dynamic Discs Open is open for registration. I believe just about any division can now, right? Or do we still have some people having to wait for the tiered? Check out the schedule. You can actually go to dynamicdiscsopen.com, go to players and then registration, and you can see our tiered registration. So it looks like tonight at 6 p.m. it opens for MPO rated 970 or higher, or FPOs rated 825 and higher. I'm assuming AJ and you, Chris, are already registered for the event. Yes.
Yep, definitely.
Nice.
Chris is. I am not registered yet, and I don't really think I will. Can we just jump right in? I mean, my tour plans are May through October. And
Okay.
And so I'm kind of like, I'm coming off this wrist injury and I don't feel like going full bore right away.
Yeah.
So my plan is to play the challenge at Goat Hill Park the first weekend of May, and then the rest of the West Coast swing.
Nice.
Although I will be here for
Okay.
the Dynamic Discs Open. I will be here.
Awesome.
I'm actually playing for AJ.
Nice.
Yes. Now, did you guys know that Eric is playing an MPO?
I am.
Yeah, I saw
didn't know
that.
that. No.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Saw that. Hell yeah.
he's making a big comeback in the MPO division. So we'll see how that goes.
Hello, Cool J.
Yeah. Ladies love. So anyway, the other divisions in the A tier side, every other division is open for registration. So you can go out to, like I said, dynamicdiscsopen.com, and then we have a registration link for both the national tier tour level and the A tier level. So make sure you get registered, and make sure you download the mobile app so you can be part of all the discussions and everything that takes place at the event. It's got all the information you need. You can go to, again, dynamicdiscopen.com, go to general info, and then the Dynamic Disc Open mobile app link will take you to the instructions to get there. And then also one more thing, we have doubles match play. Now we switch things around. You used to do singles and then doubles, but now we're doing doubles and then singles. So come mid-February, you'll be able to put your application in to run some local brackets in your area. All the information can be found at discgolfmatchplay.com. Make sure you get it on so you can represent your state and come here to Emporia and win some fun, good stuff. So yeah, so let's kind of just real quick dive in. Chris, we'll start with you, Chris. What's going on for 2021? What are you excited about? What's got you psyched? What's got you going?
I'm excited to just play disc golf again, hopefully for some fans. I'm hoping we can kind of get back to normal, maybe by the end of the season. And also I plan on going to Europe to play. And I planned on last year doing that, but of course those plans fell through. So yeah, I'm just excited to get going and play some disc golf. I feel like last season was kind of cut short, of course, so I'm fiending to play.
Nice. Anything that you had worked on the last couple of years that you're now going to implement for 2021, or just kind of the same game plan that you've always had?
I think I'm just kind of constantly learning. I feel more and more comfortable with the courses as the years go on. A lot of the courses that we play on tour, it'll be my third or fourth time playing them now. And so that's really nice. And I know that each year when I come back, I'm like, man, this is a lot easier than I remember. So that means I'm getting better, or at least I think I am. But I am excited for the West Coast swing. We didn't get to do that last year. So we didn't get to play like Milo McIver and De La and stuff. So I'm excited for those too.
So yeah, you mentioned, so you said I think you said this is like your fourth year getting out and really touring full time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like a senior. You're like, you can graduate after this year. No, but like
That's
being
right.
out there, being your fourth year, you said sometimes the courses might feel easier. At least you're used to them. But does that kind of help your play? In other words, you're more comfortable. You kind of know the scene. You know what it's like to drive and stay at different places and practice and things like that. Is this being your fourth year? Is there something that makes it just that much easier, at least, or be more helpful in your play?
Yeah, of course. Going back to a place, usually I'm staying with the same people or at the same places. And so this being my third or fourth year, going to some places, you just become more and more comfortable. You learn what discs you've used in past rounds, and you can lean on those this time around. And I think I'm kind of a creature of habit. So I like to find out what works on courses and then kind of stick to that.
Excellent.
I feel like being a creature of habit is a very helpful attribute for a golfer.
Yeah.
Whether it be disc, stick, foot, or otherwise. I don't know. Yeah, just a small anecdote, but I resonate with that feeling of going back and then back again to a place that that you're not, you didn't grow up there.
Yeah.
And so how your perspective changes with each subsequent visit, that's a real thing too. So
for sure.
Yeah. So big things.
Yeah. Like the first time you play a course, you might throw, for me, like I kind of throw 50-50 backhand, forehand a lot of the time. And so I know like my first season when I first toured, I was throwing a ton of forehands, just trying to like keep up, with the big righties. And then I learned over time, especially 2019, the latter part of the season, I was like, dude, throw your strong shots no matter what it is. And so I started leaning on the backhand more. And then in 2020, like I kind of put those together. And so I throw courses different from year to year. And I know in 2018, I was throwing tons of forehands and stuff. And so I learned, and developed and got better. And so I'm excited to go to Vegas again to get this season started. And I'm playing Milo again. Milo's amazing. So I'm excited.
AJ, being out there, you mentioned being out there for a few years now. Does anything change with like your practice routine from year to year? Or being this year, what year? This will be your fourth or fifth year being out touring?
I believe this will be my fifth. Yeah. 2017 was my first full year. 17, 18, 19, 20 was interesting. 21. Yeah, that'll be my fifth year. Yeah.
So going in your fifth year, other than, obviously, still working with your wrist injury and things like that, but is there anything that changes as far as your practice routine?
I mean, in those years that we talked about, not really. I feel like I had a pretty concrete plan of, it was same from locale to locale of like 3 rounds minimum. Yeah. Especially if it was, that was more for like I would say it's just for any course, but that first round would be throw the shots and, find the lines and explore what's, all the possibilities. And then the second round would be, okay, figure out what is, what works better. And then the third, and dial that in. And then the third round is kind of like, is the stroke play, the stroke practice round, where you throw one shot and you play it out to kind of simulate that tournament round. So yeah, that 3-round practice model, that was pretty consistent over those first few years touring. But then, I mean, really the injury kind of puts a little bit of a damper on like how many throws, like my throw count for a given day. So, I mean, it's good to have that experience just kind of keep, piling on, so that it's not as important to get the repetitions in to learn the lines and to learn the discs. I know more of that now. So yeah, I mean, I would say the injury is almost like a blessing in disguise, just for that particular reason.
Yeah. So Eric, of course, you've been doing the touring for quite some time. Does it get, after the 5th, 6th year, does it get any easier, the grind?
That's a great question. It's definitely a lot different now than it was back in, 2003 when I first hit the road full time for the first time. I would say it's a lot more comfortable out on the road, as far as, there's more people in the sport. There's more places to stay. There's more availability for that type of just players out there, and nowadays it's like, not just that the players are getting paid a lot more, because that is the case. So they're a little bit more comfortable in that regard. But it's on the other side of things, it's a lot more challenging now, because the level of play is just ridiculous. It's through the roof. Like, when I was traveling and touring, if you were a 10-20 rated player, like, that's top of the line. Like,
It's big dog status.
Yeah, exactly. And there wasn't very many players back then that were at that level. And now what, 1060 something? Like, that's just silly. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you look up the word inflation in the dictionary or not. It describes what I just said, but let's just, yeah, we'll go there. We'll
Pretty much.
Yeah, I know. I listened to one of your guys' disc golf hot takes, and I think it was Anthony who mentioned the kind of like inflation, and he was kind of like, 1,000 rated now. It's kind of like the baseline. Like, if you want to tour, you're gonna have to be there and average over that to cash most of the time.
Well over that. That article that was just released, or I think maybe it was on Dixon's page. He posted about, if you're 1,000 rated player and you average 1,000, there's tournaments that you did not cash at.
It's true.
Yeah.
Beaver State Fling.
Yep.
Fun fact, I reached that. I eclipsed the 1,000 player rating mark in 2017 in September, late September. So I had been on the road for a good 6 months. And then actually before that, 13, 14, 15, and 16, I still went out and traveled, and I wasn't on tour. So I don't know exactly what that adds to this conversation, but it's definitely, it was possible back then. And yeah, I mean, nowadays it's daunting for that sub 1,000 rated player to, at least the goals and the expectations are a bit different nowadays, I would say.
Gotcha. I know at Beaver State Fling in 2019, I think that was the last time I missed cash. And I think I averaged like 10-14 and I would miss like last cash. And I think it's solely because like the field is so small. There's only like 80 people they let in. And so it's like all the top pros.
Exactly.
It's dense.
You have to be top.
Yes.
To even get into that event.
Right.
I've done that as well. I think I shot, I don't know if it was 17 or 18, 4 rounds under par. I averaged 10-20, missed cash by like 2 or 3 strokes.
It's insane.
And I was stoked. On my play.
Right.
And it's
like, at least give me $100, man. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But that's how it goes. And I think people, the sooner they realize and accept that, then they're able to, shift their perspective and really take advantage and capitalize and figure out, okay, what do I have to do? In order to succeed, not just in this one event, the Beaver State Fling, for example, but throughout that whole season. Then you it's like, whoa, okay, what even defines a successful season then? If there's one event that you're going to have. If, like, let's say I play my best golf of the year at that tournament and I don't cash, well, I better have some, like, a good, good reactions, and I better have a level head in order to continue and hopefully cash at the next event, because I tell you what, that could really mess with someone shooting that averaging 10-20 golf and not cashing. That's tough. That's definitely a lot more difficult than an 8-hour drive.
Let's see if we can help some more people do better by answering some disc golf questions. How about that?
There we go.
All right. So, guys, as always, you can send your questions into discgolfanswerman.com. We will try to get them on the air. This first one is from Austin. This is on finding discs, and we're going to have to see if we can save somebody from quitting disc golf with this question. He asks, what is the best way to keep track of discs from bad throws? I've lost 21 this year and have only gotten 2 back, and all of them have my name and number. And I am at the point I may just quit because I can't afford to keep replacing them.
Oh man.
Dang.
Tough. When you, like, usually you yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Is he losing them in the water, in the woods?
Fountain Hills?
Yeah. Fountain Hills.
That would make more sense.
Probably don't want those discs back anyways.
Oh,
no.
I would say, though, I mean, usually a lost disc like that comes after a bad shot. And our typical reaction is to, when we throw that bad shot or have that yank, is to, like, look away and to
turn away,
have some other kind of reaction. But that's I think that's the start, is if you feel like it's going to be a bad shot at that moment that it leaves your hand, just watch it. That's what we say. I feel like that's what we say. That's what the pros say to the other pros during the practice rounds, because we all throw those bad shots, those shanks. And I tell you what, the top touring pros definitely don't want to look at their shank jobs, but they have to, unless they want to unless they don't really care about that disc. So, I mean, Chris, I'm sure, has said it plenty of times to other people. Hey, watch that. I know I say it to Oakley all the time, and he says it to me.
Are you saying Oakley throws a lot of bad shots?
I'm saying he throws a lot of shots.
A lot of shots.
So I tour with Castro, and when somebody shanks one, he'll be like, "Not helping."
Yes.
He'll just say that.
Not helping. How funny. All right. Any other suggestions on that? I mean, I think it's a pretty good suggestion to be able to watch your disc, so you make sure you know where it goes, so you don't keep losing them.
Course, maybe.
Play a different course. Yeah. The next one is from Mike. This is a new player trying to get better in the winter. I was wondering if you had any suggestions on how to improve his approach and driving technique while indoors during the winter months. I just started playing 3 months ago, and I still have issues with nose up throws and arm speed. Would something like the Pro Pool help? Should I videotape throws into a blanket? Thanks again.
Yes and yes. I think I haven't done too much research on the Pro Poll, but I feel like it's there's instructions that come with it, and, like, intentional instructions. Like, if you want to fix this, here's what you do.
Yeah.
And here's what you pay attention to while you do it. And then another real quick is, like, filming yourself helps, because then you can focus on keeping your head up and looking at, like, where the disc will be going, rather than, while you're throwing, rather than practicing your throw and just staring at the disc while you're throwing. If you're, usually your head's going to be then down, and that's going to cause your shoulders to sink a little bit as well. So, that could help.
Yeah. I used to do that, and I still do that. I'll sometimes you can grab a towel and do, like, the towel drill or the hammer drill. Those are things you can, like, Google. And and, like, if you're just constantly, like, going through your form and stuff and working on that, even without a disc in the winter, it kind of helps your body, kind of get used to it.
Is it fair to say that, even though practicing inside and during the winter times is helpful, but at some point, and I mean, maybe this is obvious, but at some point you've got to get outside to see if what you're doing is actually causing a positive outcome, right?
Sure.
Exactly.
And I mean, if AJ, the California boy, can go out and play a quick 9 holes in 25 degrees, anybody can.
It's true.
happens.
Sometimes you just gotta do it, even if it's only for 30 minutes. You just gotta go out there, because usually once it gets past that, like, your hands are frozen anyways, and you're probably not gonna throw very well. So I think just doing quick little bursts is probably the best when it's super cold outside.
For
All right,
sure.
this next one is from Mark, and this is more toward Eric on course design. So Mark wants to know, I dream of building my own course someday and wondering how much walkable acreage do you need to build an 18-hole course, and what are some of the hidden costs besides baskets, tee signs, and pads? If you want to charge to play, do you need licensing or waivers? What does EMAC have to say?
Well, a lot goes into it. There's a lot of variables on how many acres are needed for a good 18-hole course. Because in Kansas, you're going to need, minimum 30. That's on the very small side for a quality 18-hole course. If you want more of a championship level course, you're going to need closer to 60. And obviously, if you go anywhere else, like in the Northeast, into the woods, you can get away with smaller acreage, because obviously there's those tree barriers. But so yeah, it kind of depends on what style of course you're really looking to get. What kind of course that you want. If it's more of a just maybe not beginner friendly, but just something that everybody can enjoy, you're going to want around 30 to 40 acres. And as far as some other hidden costs that you're going to come up with a lot. There's going to be a lot of hidden costs, not just for the baskets, not just for the tee signs, design if you pay for that, equipment. Pouring tee pads, the forms you got to buy, and if you do concrete tee pads, I suggest you do it the right way and put metal down, some sort of mesh down, so you can move them if you need to. Like if you're putting concrete down, you want to put the metal in so they don't crack and break in the wintertime, things like that. But other like hidden revenues that you're not thinking of is if anything needs cleared, tree wise, upkeep, mowing. Honestly, it's a laundry list of things that you got to really be thinking about going into putting in a pay to play style of course. And as far as like a waiver or insurance, I'm assuming it's on private land that you probably own, and you would probably have some sort of insurance policy on that property. But just to be safe, you can always have signage or when you're registering people to come pay to play, some sort of waiver that they sign to kind of protects you or any of the property's ownership.
All right. Next one comes from Kevin, and this is on mold variability. And I'm curious, I read the question real quick, and I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on this.
There's black mold, and then there's like, what other kinds of mold is there?
Green mold.
What about the blue ones?
Well, yeah, and then there's the mold that you get on your cheese or whatever you leave in the fridge.
Good
for
mold.
Too long.
That's a good mold.
That's a good mold. All right. Due to inconsistent disc manufacturing processes, I can go buy 2 discs of the same mold that have slightly different shapes and very different flight characteristics. I wouldn't say very different, but perspective. Would it be better for disc golf if all discs of the same mold flew the same so that people could buy with confidence? No. Why would you want to do that? Science.
Of course.
Or is it better to have a larger range of stabilities available to fill specific spots in the bag? So the one thing I would say is, of course, that's what every manufacturer is trying to do, is to make sure that every mold that comes out of that machine of one particular mold, in other words, a trespass, if we have a trespass, that every trespass comes out going to have the same flight characteristics. Now, obviously, they change because of different plastics. They change because of, you may have heard, Kevin, if you're new to the sport, they call them runs. In other words, they run thousands of discs or hundreds of discs, and then the next time they run it, well, the mold cast or whatever might be slightly different, and that the source of where they got the plastic may be slightly different, where there's a slight variation. That's throughout all manufacturing, not just us. I'm just picking out the trespass just because it's the first disc name that popped in my head. However, Latitude 64 strives, and I can only speak for them, I would imagine the others do as well. Latitude 64 works hard to make sure that they have the most consistent and most quality That's even things they've been working toward with the new line, the new Royal line, is that there's even more stringent processes to make sure that a disc mold comes out the same every time, or at least as close as possible. But there's so many variables that affect that, that's going to cause different runs to throw different. That's why you see a lot of pros say, do you like that? What was it? What did Jordan like? It was a green enforcer, right? He loved the green enforcer. Yeah.
That's what I throw.
Yeah. Because that particular color from that plastic just causes certain characteristics. That's just the nature. To me, that's just the nature of the game.
Right, like that specific run. So I think that if you like I like that specific run of Enforcer, so I try to find those. And that's not to say that like the newer runs are bad, but I just like these ones. And so if you get a disc that you really like, you should, if it's available, you should probably go back and get one or two more, so you have backups. But you're going to find variants, you know, in any plastic molding, you know, not just disc golf. And so that's just kind of how it goes.
Well, and you think about it's not just those variables, like different plastic types, different suppliers, but humidity, weather, all that stuff comes into play when it boils down to it, you know, of the manufacturing of the disc. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's not like reworking the wheel, you know, it's something that people definitely, manufacturers strive to perfect. And I think Latitude's doing a fantastic job, especially with that Royal line. Whatever process they're doing with that is showing, I think, because that plastic feels amazing.
Yep. Yeah, the discs are nice too, and I think that some of that variability is you know, a little bit of a human effect on the discs, and then that kind of, you know, puts the whole game. It gives it that kind of human touch. You know, the fact that it's not all perfect. Right. And so sure, if you have, you know, it's, and yeah, so I think there's a little bit there that it's just fine that the disc manufacturers have a little bit of variance, you know, in one mold from disc to disc. I think that's going to be natural just because of, you know, the way life is. Now, of course, we don't want it to go too far, and we don't want, you know, the blue trespasses are meat hooks and red trespasses are, you know, rollers. We don't want it to be that, you know, that different.
I don't think that happens.
I really hope not.
And if it did happen, like with the company, they probably wouldn't be a company for very long.
They're out of business. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. So next question comes from Texas David, not California David, not Minnesota David. Well, certainly not Montana David, that guy. God. But Texas, great. I just probably ticked off all the Montana people.
Yeah, you should have gone with Wyoming.
Well, yeah, it's true.
That's all right, though.
All right. So he says, hey, DGAM fam, love the show. If I'm ever in Emporia, I'd love to meet you guys. Come out to Dynamic Disc Open and you can meet a lot of us, guys. I have a two-parter. I've been getting out and doing lots of field work lately, frankly, mainly focusing on getting more distance. But I work through things with putters, mids, fairway drivers, and, of course, max distance. When I go to play around recently, I've been missing my lines more often. Is there any ideas you have to both continue to increase distance as well as hitting lines? I notice when I try to hit a certain line in the field or course, I don't throw nearly as far. So how do you concentrate on, how do you practice hitting your lines and throwing farther at the same time?
Best of both worlds. Accuracy and distance.
Yeah.
Right. I think for me personally, when I practice or have done field work in the past, it usually is in pretty open, you know, being from the Midwest, like it's open and it's windy. Usually if the fields that I throw at, if there are trees, I try to work those in, but you just kind of have to imagine that you're playing holes. And if you're throwing your Explorer and you're trying to throw it 350 dead straight, like that's what you're trying to do. You know, but if you're practicing to throw further, you are going to be probably lengthening your form. The timing might not be as good, and that's what you really need for accuracy. And so I think just more and more practice, and you get more comfortable with throwing further. And then eventually things will kind of click and you'll develop more consistency. So you will be able to throw those tighter lines, you know, without losing much power or accuracy.
Totally. On top of that, add a little bit more intention to that field work. Same kind of thing goes with putting practice. But if you're when you're in the field, maybe throw less and pay attention more, and try practicing anhyzers and hyzer flips. And the more intention you put into those throws in the field, you'll learn more, and you'll discover more about yourself and about the discs and about your footwork and everything in between. So that's my advice is try to visualize what you're doing. Like Chris said, like try to visualize those shots while you're in the field, and then watch them and pay attention. I know that one tip that that was shared with me a little while ago was to play catch with a golf disc with someone. And the purpose behind that was to learn about the flight of the disc, and really, and you learn by just watching the disc fly. So that's my advice. If you're if you feel like your full power throws are getting a little sprinkler system ish, just when you go to the field, really pay attention to everything from before the throw to after the throw, as well as the flight of the disc.
Playing catch is also super underrated. I mean,
very much so,
especially with even if it's just a putter. That's one of my favorite things to do, is go out to a field or before a round or tournament or whatever, is find somebody and just play catch with a putter back and forth. And mentally, you don't even know you're doing it, but you're just seeing approaches, and you have that putter in your hand later during the round, and it's like just like second hand. You just hey, that basket, I'm just going to throw right to it, and you'll be amazed how many times you're playing catch you can throw that disc right to the person you're playing catch with. And if you can put that into actual tournament play, you're going to be amazed at how fast your strokes are going to just start to fall.
And the pressure will kind of dissipate as well, that tension that you feel.
Yeah. And I think you get tons of reps. And, I used to play catch with Castro. We would throw the fuse back and forth and you get tons of reps, and you can just hit all kinds of lines with them. And so, yeah, it's super good to do. Oh yeah.
Rehabbing this wrist injury. My dad and I have been playing a lot of catch with a guts disc, which is it's a little bit bigger than a putter. Just a tiny bit, but it's shaped like a traditional catch disc, more like like an ultimate disc, and it's pretty light. And so we've been working on that, and I've found that that I'm still incorporating the thing, the technique that goes into a golf shot. I'm able to incorporate that into this light guts disc that requires a lot of touch. And then we've also moved up to the Beetle. I highly recommend that for playing catch as well. And so they're different discs than golf discs, but the mechanics are still relatable. And so I would recommend that to someone as well.
Excellent. His second part is, in the field, I've just broken the 400 feet mark, but in my rounds, I still max out around 330. Is there any way to help that distance translate to the course? So that's a question we get quite often. Is a lot of people are like, I do well in practice rounds. I can throw this far in practice rounds. I hit my lines in practice rounds. All of a sudden, tournaments, I fall apart.
That's strange. I was going to go ahead, Bobby.
Well, I was going to say, it'll be interesting to hear AJ and Chris's take on that.
Sure. For me, real quick, I'm the opposite. I feel like I throw so much further during competition rounds, and I don't know if it's adrenaline or what it is, but I can definitely find myself throwing a little bit further during competition than I do during my just normal everyday practice rounds. It's strange. They say.
Sorry, Eric. I tend to agree. I know that when I'm playing practice rounds on tour, I throw, like when the tournament comes, like if there's a big forehand that I have to throw and I kept coming up a little bit short, like during practice rounds, I was like, I know that I'm going to get there in the tournament, just because I have that extra adrenaline and I got those reps. But if you're practicing in the field, what kind of lines are you throwing? Like, is this guy, if he throws 400 in the field but can only throw 330, like he must be throwing like some huge flex lines to get that 400. So it's like, when are you really going to use that on a course, unless it's wide open? So I think practicing more of those golf shots and getting more distance in those is way more beneficial than just throwing max distance.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Excellent advice.
Accuracy over distance all day.
Yep.
One thing and then another sort of like practice regimen that you could go through is, how can I describe this easily? Let's see. So
I can see you try.
Yes. Yeah. So let's say we have putters and mid ranges and fairway drivers. One way to stretch out that distance is to kind of determine what your average distance is with each type of disc. So I'm going to just generalize and say that throwing putters 250, mid ranges 300, fairway drivers 350. So now over time, it'll help if you throw your fairway drivers and then try to match that distance with the mid range. Same with the mid range and the putter. If you can stretch out those slower discs, the mechanics involved with those kind of shots and those farther shots with the slower discs, those mechanics will then help you throw the fastest discs the farthest. So that's my advice, is try to stretch out the slower discs in the field or on the course. Do that. And then as well, kind of do the opposite. Again, with that like 250, 300, 350 model, flip it and say, okay, I know I can max out my putters at 250 feet. I'm going to throw, and now I'm going to do that. And then now I'm going to throw my mid ranges 250 feet. And then after that, I'm going to throw my fairway drivers 250 feet. And just that like intention behind each one of those throws brings you back to the present. So you're not thinking so much about what happened last week when you were in the field and you could blah, blah, blah. That's in the past. And you're not as much thinking about the tournament that you're going to play in a month, where you have to clear the water carry of 400 feet. And, that's stressful as well. Even just the thought, it's not even here yet. And you're already stressing about a hole 1 at Fountain Hills. That tournament isn't even on the Pro Tour anymore. Why am I stressing about it? But just bringing yourself to the present when you're in the field, it works wonders. So that's some of my advice on that field work and how to throw farther. Because that's what I did. I played my home course when I was first learning the game was on an executive length ball golf course. The baskets were usually placed just beyond the greens out of bounds. So distance control was like the most important part of that course. And I know that over the years, I think I got to play there for about 5 years before the course was pulled. And my evolution on that course was distance drivers, fairway drivers, mid ranges, and putters off of the tee shots. And things just didn't click each year. I didn't just say, okay, this year I'm going to throw my mid ranges on hole 7 and I'll be good to go. No, it's like over time, gradually I would say, okay, cool. I parked hole 11 with my T-bird. Now I'm going to try to park hole 11 with my buzz. This was back in like 2007, 2008. So just bear with me. I didn't like the trespass wasn't even a thing. So, but yeah, so that's kind of like how I progressed through that distance control and maximum distance.
Good stuff. Well, this is the time of the episode where we normally have Danny do his disc golf tips. So since AJ's standing in for Danny, AJ,
and Robert,
what's your disc golf tip of the week?
My disc golf tip of the week. Let's see. What have I been really grooving on lately? And then let's see, today, I mean, even today we went out and played Hammond Park before noon. It was chilly. Okay, here's my tip. I got this from a book where the authors wanted the way he framed it. He said, okay, when the most famous clutch relief pitcher of all time was asked what he thinks about when he's walking onto the field in those crisis situations, what does this guy what does this guy think about when he's trying to save the game in the bottom of the ninth or whatever? And his answer was two things. One, what am I going to do? Two, what do I want to have happen? And those two things, that's what he thought about as he's, when he's warming up and as he's walking out. What am I going to do and what do I want to have happen? Those are very positive things that only you can control. And that's it. If your brain is full of that and only that, imagine the possibilities. Just I'm comfortable that will help. So that's why I'm submitting it as my tip of the day. What am I going to do? What do I want to have happen? If you think about that in positive terms, in a positive light, you think to yourself, okay, I am going to tie my shoes and I want my shoes to remain tied the whole day. So now, okay, well, I haven't tied my shoes yet. Now I'm thinking I am going to double knot my shoes because I want to remain upright throughout the whole day, and I'm running a marathon. Ta-da, I did it.
But you wear those Velcro shoes, don't you?
Not when I'm running marathons.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank you so much, AJ, for your TED Talk. That was brilliant. No, that was good stuff.
Hopefully that helps. There's a lot of negativity in the world and in our minds. And so we can't really pull the negative thoughts out of our mind, but what we can do is we can push them out with positive thoughts.
Gotcha. All right, next question comes from, just trying to find, here we go, Jonathan, who's 15 and hungry and has sent this one question in 10 times, I believe. So we're going to get it answered because Eric is on the show.
Hey.
Hi, I'm 15 and live near Ruidoso,
New Mexico.
I don't think you were on here when we asked this, right, Eric? Where EMAC came and designed Moon Mountain.
I did.
You were right. Yes. I was wondering if he played any courses near Ruidoso or Roswell, where my home course is, and if he had any recommendations.
We answered this.
Yes, we did. I thought. Yeah, okay. So
yeah.
Please don't send in your question multiple times. This is what happens.
Funny enough, he's
15
now
and hungry.
Years old.
I know. I was like hungry to get better, or hungry for like a Big Mac.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, here's an interesting thing to get your all's interesting question to get your all's take on. This is from Matt, and the subject is disc scalpers.
Oh, oh no.
No.
So like people who like. Okay, go ahead, read it.
I've been looking for a lucid judge for a few months now. These discs have been really difficult to find, and understandably so. I recently found a gentleman on Facebook who seems to be buying up rare or hard to get trilogy discs and selling them at higher prices. At first, I saw most of the discs he was selling as being marked up for their rarity. He has some interesting discs for sale. However, I scrolled across some Lucid X judges he had for sale and my jaw hit the floor. One Lucid X judge was $40. If that made your jaw drop, then you haven't been on this auction site very much.
Oh man.
Even with shipping, there is no way that a single disc, especially a new disc, should cost this much. My question is, how can I find the discs I'm looking for without feeding these types of guys who are simply buying as many as they can and selling them at a huge profit? Keep it real fresh. Don't be afraid to be spicy.
Ooh.
I know how.
How?
We have this custom run program that you can do this.
Ooh.
And you can do whatever you want to do. And then you can become that guy on the corner scalping discs.
I mean,
there you go.
That's just
You have to order to do a custom run?
100, right? No.
That's custom run. or custom rush.
Oh,
Custom
okay.
rush and run are different. Custom I think it's 1,000.
Oh, okay. Well, that might be a bit much to buy, but I mean,
I'm tired of buying $40 discs. Okay, well then how about $1,000 order?
right.
Well, be more than $1,000, but
Right.
the thing that struck me was he said Lucid X Judge. And if you got a Lucid X Judge for $40, you got a heck of a deal, in my opinion, because you could turn around and auction that thing if you really wanted to for probably closer to 60, because there's not very many Lucid X Judges out there. I know Paige Shue did a run for, was that DDO or GBO, or she did a run for him last year at some point. I don't remember which, but I don't recall if there was any other ones out there.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, it is a rarity disc, and you possibly got it on one of the Trilogy rarity sites. I mean, $40 is a pretty good deal for that disc, in my opinion.
I get that you don't want to pay $40 for a disc, whatever it is, the rarity or not. I understand, but how does one get them at a regular price? Well, you just have to be you have to be ahead of the game, ahead of the guy that's going to do that. Is that fair that guy does that? I mean, I don't know. We've done things where we've had limited, you can only buy certain amounts, but people find ways around that. We've, done different things to try to help control that, but people find ways around that. Mm-hmm. I think it's just one of those things that if it's a hard to find disc, if it's a rare disc, somebody who is determined to get it before everybody else to sell it at a higher price is going to find a way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, like, concert tickets, the ticket master, ticket hub or whatever, like they buy all those tickets and then sell them at a price that's more than they're worth.
Service
like I think
fees,
this happens across everything. I think
shoes it happens quite a bit too.
Yeah.
Cheap it is to make a shoe, probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the question?
The question was, how can I find the discs I'm looking for without feeding these types of guys who are simply buying them as many as they can and selling them at a huge profit?
Well, there you go. Just go straight to the source. Go to, when a disc drops, when our Tour Series discs are, they drop on the Dynamic Discs website. Be there.
Yep.
Right.
Be there. Have your internet connection ready to go. That information's out there as well. It might not be out there for, I think like Sexton Firebirds. Sorry, Innova, and sorry, Nate. I don't want to, put you in like a negative light here, but I'm not sure if there's like a release calendar for those Sexton Firebirds on the.
I think they just kind of randomly happen.
Yeah, they say, okay, cool, those sold out. Now it's 2 weeks since those sold out. We're going to put 1,000 more up, and of course, there's the demand is higher than 1,000, and of course, the supply is higher than 1,000. But they'll still put out 1,000 discs at one time, or X number of discs at one time. Right. But that will be the way to get the lowest price on a disc like that, a collector or a specials limited run.
We actually do a release calendar at dynamicdisc.com. You go to resources and then there's release calendar. Now, right now there's nothing on it because, right now there's nothing on there because we've kind of slowed down new releases because trying to catch up because of the COVID effect as far as it has had on disc golf. But once we start getting some dates in line and stuff like that, we'll put information out there so you can at least be ahead of the game. Of course, I just told everybody about it. But at least it gives you something that you can work with. Next question comes from Greg, and this is about beat-in discs. I'm a new player with about 6 months of experience. I hear people talk about a beat-in disc. What kind of change in performance or behavior would I expect to see between a new disc and a beat-in disc for both understable and overstable discs? So that's a good question. Chris, what do you see? What do you see happening to overstable discs as they beat in for you?
Any disc that beats in is going to become less overstable, I guess is the easiest way to put it. Usually we'll have more glide. So I like my enforcers to be overstable. That's why I have them. Or my war horses is probably a better example. I have them in there to specifically be wind fighters and to be very overstable. So when they start to get too straight, if they start to turn or, get a little less stable than I would like in a headwind, then I'll put a new one in and just kind of retire that one. But that goes for overstable, like the discs I have in my bag to be overstable, felons, war horses, enforcers. When it comes to an explorer or a getaway, an EMAC truth, something that I want to be straight, I think the longer I have it in my bag and the more it beats in, the better it gets, honestly. Because they just have amazing glide, and you tend to, over years, like, you don't have to throw them as hard. And yeah, but I mean, in general, if you're a right-handed backhand player, a disc will turn right more the more it beats in, is the easiest way to put it.
Is that hard for you to say? As
A little bit.
You have to
As
think about
as
that.
a,
Wait,
as
no,
a
it goes this
right-handed
way,
player.
not that way.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine it the other way.
Right.
That's I think that reminds me of a tweet or a meme that I saw recently. Someone said, I'm going to start referring to them as like the male dentist and the male police officer and the male this and that, just so you can see how it feels when people say, oh, the first female astronaut.
Oh yeah.
It's just it's just an astronaut.
Right.
Chris, I feel your pain. I would say with those with the beat in discs, I want to say it has a bit more of an effect on the high speed turn of each individual disc. Maybe not as much effect on the low speed fade of said disc. And then to Chris's point as well, those, in order to beat in a disc or put that wear and tear, some people will call a disc worn as well as beat in. To do that, it requires throws, and it requires the disc to be like touching the ground or hitting the ground. And so it's like that, those throws are experience. And so I guess the question was really more aimed towards the stability of the disc. But to piggyback off of what Chris was saying, the more you beat in a disc, the more you know about that disc. And so it becomes, you learn more about the intricacies of that disc's flight, and it becomes a little bit more like second nature. And so you're more comfortable with that tool that you have in your bag. So unless you go out and buy, 6 out of 10 discs on eBay, and your bag is full of worn discs that you've never thrown, things might be a little bit different. But so yeah.
Here's a good follow-up question that's on the YouTube chat. Does a disc ever stop beating in?
Oh, dang. The YouTube chat they have the best questions.
Fire.
I mean, like,
not that I've seen.
Realistically, no, it wouldn't stop beating in until it ceases to exist, I guess. But for me, like, yeah. Once it's like, I have a judge in my bag that's been in there for like 5 years, and it really doesn't have a beat anymore. It's pretty much an EMAC judge now, and it's very, very small bead. But yeah, it's really flippy, but it's awesome, and I don't really see it getting less and less overstable or stable. But I don't know. Like, once it did, I just take it out probably.
It's got to be like on a curve or something where like it beats in a lot, and then it just barely beats into where it's not even noticeable. But it's just the physical characteristics of it is that it's being beat in because it's being thrown more and more and more.
And I also think that, kind of like Chris alluded to, that it would just come out of the bag when it gets to a certain of beat or seasoned, that it's not performing like you want it to or like it once did. So as soon as you start not trusting a disc, that's when it's time to get that thing out of there.
Oh yeah.
And replace it with a new one.
I just think it's funny that like you guys are this is kind of a concept like terminal velocity. If you fall, if you're in a free fall, you can only go so fast. You can only plummet to the earth at such a rate.
17 miles an hour or something.
Right? Yeah. And so does a disc have a terminal wear and tear?
No, because
Where velocity?
it constantly, like if you have a putter and you're constantly putting with it, there's going to be chips off of it
Right.
and stuff like that. That's going to happen
Yes.
until it ceases to exist. But something that I have found specifically with drivers, so there's the edge of a disc or the nose, you can get dings on that, and that will affect flight. But I found the biggest part that affects flight is like the bottom part,
Ooh.
kind of like the flight plate. I don't know specifically what that's called, the rim.
The rim, yeah,
Bottom,
there you go.
yeah, the bottom rim. If you're getting chunks out of that, that's really going to affect flight more than the outer edge.
Dang.
Yeah, that part way more.
Ear chunks definitely affects the flight. I've had big chunks come out of here.
Yes, and it doesn't do much.
I mean, you could rip the little chunk off that comes off, and I don't notice a difference. But you're absolutely right.
Yep. And that happens more often on the bottom because you land on the ground and stuff. So
maybe that's a new video experiment we have Danny do. Just putt until the putter disappears.
I like that. I like that a lot. Until the putter disappears.
For a few years.
Best putter in the world if he did that, or the worst.
All right. So yes, let's see. Let's go ahead and talk about our tournament deep dive. So Disc Golf Ulti World put out an article, of course, based on an announcement made by PDGA about a new major called the Champions Cup. And I'll briefly tell everybody, just in case they haven't read the article yet, what this entails. The first 4 days of the Champions Cup will feature 4 rounds of traditional stroke play, but there's a twist. The 5th and final day will send the top 4 stroke play finishers in both NPO and FPO into a seeded match play tournament held over 2 rounds. In the semifinals, the leader will play the 4th place finisher after stroke play, and number 2 will face off against number 3. The winners of each match will play in the final. According to Kevin Jones, it sounds like an epic battle.
I agree.
I want to get y'all's take on it.
Can I just get a quick joke out there real quick? Champions Cup, written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. because there's a twist.
Because there's a twist.
I think a twist. My first impression was I agree with Kevin. I think it does sound like an epic battle. I think that I really enjoy the 4-round stroke play format over a 3-round format for a tournament. I just like the 4 rounds. I think it just adds to the storyline of the event. And so then to add in this 5th day of then match play is pretty exciting as well.
Love match play. Right?
So I think it does kind of sound like best of both worlds, especially for a major. Yeah, if it was for, I wouldn't really see myself signing up for 10 of these tournaments throughout the year. That's a lot. But I think that if it's going to be a major, one of our 4 majors, I like it.
What are your thoughts, Chris?
I think that this is they're trying something, and they're using a major to try that. It's exciting, and I do think that people like match play. They like watching that. It's something different, and maybe that's what they're going for, is something different to draw in, more viewers. So I'm not sure if it's going to have the feeling of a true major for the players. But I mean, it's one of those things we're going to have to wait and see. Another major is always fun, no matter what kind of style we play. But I think having 4 traditional rounds, it's just so weird to do that and then do match play. It's just like they mishmash stuff and threw it together, and they're like, here you go. And I don't know if I'm sure there was a lot of thought into it, but I'd like to see the reasoning behind it.
I mean, they did mention that they thought about Stableford scoring. So
right.
That there was at least that bit of thought.
Hashtag Stableford.
That's true. It is Stableford. If you pronounce that don't make me come in that other room over there.
Maybe they should make a new one over Stableford.
under.
I like
The new F-150 from Ford.
Third. So
I'm a
okay,
worse
but
my Ford.
go ahead, Eric. Yeah.
I like the idea of a new major. I think that our sport does need 4 majors. Like that's, you think about the big singles like tennis, golf. There's 4 majors. You know, that's what you think of, and I think our sport needs it. And our sport used to have that with, the Players Cup used to be a major back in the day, and that was my first major that I won, and I thought that was a great event. It was just 3 or 4 rounds, just stroke play, and it was at a great venue down in Florida at the end of the year. Now this is in April, I believe, so it's going to be a little different. So, and a major that early in the year is you got to be on top of your game early to come out swinging, you know. But think about the Masters is traditionally in April, the golf, and that's arguably one of the bigger events. The one thing that confuses me, and I think I've done a little reading on it, and one thing that I think people make a good point is after the 4 rounds, it just goes to square. So if you've built up a 15 stroke, 20 stroke lead, man, that doesn't mean anything at this point.
Which
So,
in the women's game, that's probably more likely.
Exactly.
You know, like usually there's kind of bigger.
You're exactly right. So, you know, that portion of it's a little off-putting maybe for some of the players, but
Right.
But I think, like I said, we need a 4th major. I 100% agree with that. I personally, now this is a little off topic, but I would personally rather see the PDGA award large events to be a rotating major every year, like the DDO be a major one year, Ledgestone be a major one year, Beaver State Fling be a major one year. Do something like that. Throw a major out there to have that 4th major, but not just always in PDGA's backyard at WR Jackson. So I think if it expanded out and let other people run that major, I think that would be more successful.
Yeah. Well, and so what about Worlds? Would you say that Worlds kind of act like that a little bit, that rotating major?
A little bit, but it's to an extent, yes. But that's typically going to be run by clubs.
Okay.
Other organizations, as opposed to like the events I had mentioned were mostly sole based off of manufacturers.
And then the other point you made with I mean, in the PDGA's backyard, well, we had the Hall of Fame Classic was there, and it was an established event. And then actually to go back to the
1 year.
Sorry?
It was a major 1 year.
Was it? I know it was an NT in 2019.
2011, there was the PDGA Championships.
Yep. Didn't Ricky win a major?
He did.
Yeah,
he did.
I'm pretty sure that's what that was. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then so on top of that, the Hall of Fame Classic has seen, well, and to go back to the point of the like the big lead after 4 rounds and then washing that away, I would say at WR Jackson, that big margin of victory isn't so much a problem out there. In 2015, there was a sudden death playoff. In 2018, there was a sudden death playoff. So, and then I think in 2016, the tournament wasn't even held out there. So I would say that I don't think there's much, I don't think we're really going to miss out on that, or at least that won't be as much of like a point of criticism.
Excellent. Go ahead.
We'll see.
Yeah.
WR Jackson is a deserving course for an elite event. There, I said it.
Oh,
it's such a good course. It really is.
Presnell disagrees.
Of course, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Someone's going to disagree with that. Nate Sexton will disagree with that. And
the problem with WR Jackson is that there are random trees in the middle of half the fairways, like 300-400 feet down the fairway. So
that's what that second practice round is for.
Well, if you hit your line down a fairway, then you hit a tree and kick off the fairway, like you can just get it feels unlucky out there. And I think that's a lot of people's gripe. That was Sexton's gripe. That's Presnell's gripe. And I definitely understand that. because like if you hit, like here's your line, here's your fairway, hit that, you do that, then you hit a random tree in the middle of it that's way down there, and then you kick off into the crap. It's like, well, that kind of
Tell you
sucks.
what, potholes exist, and I swerve around them, and I haven't
But
crashed
they-
yet.
but they-
but
they
whether you
fix
swerve or
those.
hit, whether you swerve or hit a pothole doesn't say how you place in life.
I agree with
And I tell you
And
what,
pay your bills.
the 5th year and the 6th year and the 7th year that you go back and walk W.R. Jackson, you notice more trees, and your brain wrinkles more and more. So, you know, I'll say that
I love playing it. It's fun. It's a great course.
Yeah, I agree.
We need more potholes.
That's more potholes in courses. I think you're on to something, AJ.
I mean, that would make the run up pretty difficult if you landed in a pothole in the middle
Follow
of the course.
throughs.
Yeah.
USDG's
gotta-
you talking about this. You guys are going to show up
Oh,
next year. There's gonna
man.
be holes all over that course.
I mean, it's just life. Life is difficult. And what are we gonna, you know, what are we gonna do about it? Forge ahead. We're gonna find a way to.
Yeah, there's a tree in the middle of the fairway.
And there's a fable about that as well. That this Zen master placed this humongous boulder in the middle of the path, and people would, and it blocked the whole path. And people would walk down the path, see the boulder, and turn around. Until one day, one guy walked down the path and he figured out how to move the boulder. And he was able to move the boulder out of the way, continue down the path. And what do you know? The Zen master, or maybe it was the emperor, put a huge sack of gold coins under the rock, under the boulder. And so that was the reward for testing the limits that life sets for us.
I think that's what Chris's point. He wants to move the boulder. He wants to move the trees.
Cut the trees down. There you go. There's gold under them trees.
I tell you what, and so if someone wants to say that W.R. Jackson is not a deserving course for an elite event, then it doesn't surprise me that same person also called Blue Ribbon Pines pretty soft. That doesn't make any sense at all. I'm just kidding. Sorry. But it's a tough course, and that's why there's tough players out there.
We have answer. We have a hot.
I think Bobby's mic's messing up.
Yep, Bobby, Mike's cutting out. Now it's completely gone.
Yeah, it's kind of crackly.
Yeah, it's because it's blue.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's kind of off-putting.
Yeah, go Chiefs.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
you're in Chiefs country.
Hold on, hang tight.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're
we
back?
can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, so real quick before we lose again, so this is the end of the Disc Golf Answer Man, and we'll head into the hot takes if you guys got a couple minutes. This is actually a listener hot take.
Ooh.
Oh
Ready?
boy.
These are the best ones typically.
Is it Robert again?
Pro Tour results should be reported as birdie plus X instead of par plus X. I don't
What?
think we did this one, did we?
I don't even understand that.
That way, instead of shooting 42 under on a 3-round tournament, the score would be 12 over. That should stop the whole scores are too low whining. And a similar thing happened in golf. Originally, bogey meant what par means nowadays. It just wasn't updated on courses when clubs technology advanced, and in the end, meanings of terms were changed.
Interesting.
That's
Well, par is usually how many shots it takes you to get to the green and 2 putts, if that helps with anything.
It does.
For the average
par.
player, or
That's how
for
par
what player?
is figured.
For the definition of
scratch.
par
Oh,
in
okay.
in traditional golf, in the
Gotcha.
traditional golf lexicon.
Gotcha.
And so if disc golf wants to change to par 2s, mini golf did the same thing. So that's,
I've played majors in Europe that had par 2s.
really.
was that at Yarva?
Yarva par 2 on that course.
And didn't Nate Doss get a birdie one time?
Yes, he did. He got a birdie.
That's
Crazy.
I don't know. I mean, is it that big of a problem? Like people complaining about it on the internet that like we really need to change it for them?
Have you
Well, here's
read
the
the
thing.
internet?
I think someone has this conspiracy that this huge corporate sponsor is looking at disc golf and thinking, I want to put millions and millions of dollars into this sport, but it just looks too dang easy.
Yeah.
And they only look at the score and they never go out and play a course. Like I heard of, I think it was EMAC, wasn't it you that told me when you came out to Southern California, you showed the Callaway guys, their first round of disc golf was at Goat Hill Park.
Yep.
That's a 10,000 foot course.
Yeah.
It's humongous. And if that's someone's first experience of a disc golf round, there's no way that they would think that the sport is too easy.
Yeah.
So,
and here's the thing, if we do go that route and make it look harder as far as scores go, people are just going to start complaining about something else.
Sure.
Right.
It's too hard, So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you're dang right.
yeah, at the end of the day, par's irrelevant at the end of the day. You all shoot the same score regardless if it's a 1 down or a 10 down. You still shot a 52 or whatever it is. So to me, it's par's irrelevant for the most part. And I get the argument of you got to base it off of something, or you have to continue having birdies, whatever that case is. To me, it's irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. I don't care if you shoot a 10 down, a 20 down, or a 52 or a 62, whatever. This is what you shot. That's how.
I don't
tell you
see
what,
like the
it's-
end goal to it. Like what is the point? Just to make people feel worse or better? I just don't quite understand like why.
When you think about certain holes on certain courses, that the par has changed from year to year.
Mm-hmm.
Now think about so think about that feeling and that kind of perspective across the whole board. That would be brutal, because
Did it happen at Waco?
And that's kind of, I'm referencing like stuff like that. Like,
Emporia,
last year this was
changed.
Oh, this is a par 4 now this year instead of a par 5. I think and so then the players think, oh well, I got to get a 3, or it's like there's that shift, that attitude shift. And so if you see that across the whole sport, I think you'll see it's like, well, the sport has become too difficult.
Yep.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for giving us your take, gentlemen. I think that'll do it for this complete episode. We want to thank everybody for tuning in on YouTube and, of course, listening on the audio. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube. Tap that notification bell so that you'll be notified when we upload new stuff. And then, of course, subscribe to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you are listening to podcasts, and subscribe so you never miss an episode there. We have a lot of good stuff coming up. In fact, for the podcast, we're having a lot of players visit Emporia. We're going to be doing some pre-recorded episodes that we'll be uploading over the next couple of weeks. So make sure you don't miss out on those. Before we go, AJ Risley, where can people follow your story online?
Instagram at Risby Jr. RIZBEEJR. That's where I post. That's where I post most often. So you can find me there. And I will say that when podcasts were only on Cup and String, there was no subscribe button. There were no notifications.
Thank goodness for the technology. And
you just had to have the cup handy.
Right. Sometimes we would throw them at people, just hit them in the head with it so they know that we're getting ready to go live.
Like, hey, we're going live.
Where can people follow your story, Chris?
DD Clemonade on Instagram is probably the best spot. I occasionally get on Snapchat or Facebook. I'm on all the social media. I think I actually just started doing TikToks too. So I'm trying to keep up with the youngsters,
Following you, Chris.
Yeah.
Now,
So it's fun.
A couple people asked Chris if you're a gamer. I know you've done some games, and if you're on Twitch.
I do. I think my name on there is like Clemonade or something like that. Yeah, occasionally I'll stream. I've contemplated like posting on my social media, be like, hey, I'm streaming now and come and watch it, but I just have never done it. I think I need to get like a camera set up and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm on Twitch. I play games on Xbox. So yeah, if you find me, we'll game together.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Two.
Is that a birdie or a par?